In 2011, an earthquake hit eastern Japan, setting records on the Richter scale. What followed was widespread damage, destroying towns and causing mass casualties. On top of all that, tsunamis followed, ravaging the towns and causing even more destruction and tragedy. In a country known for tradition and respecting the dead, what became of all these lost souls? We'll discuss. I'm Mike.
I'm Ian.
And I'm Dave. If you thought American ghost stories were creepy, stick around, because these tales from the other side will make the hair on the back of your neck stand at attention. This is Necronomipod.
We can see something is ablaze there on the ground as this very strange wave of mud and debris with boats included and cars and all sorts of things. It's when you see something like this, Ivan, unfold before your very eyes that you get an idea of there's nowhere to run when you have something like that coming so fast toward you. And of course, you know, it appears to be fairly slow when you're looking aerially, but if you're on the ground and that is moving at such a fast speed, you can see the boat there.
Just unbelievable pictures. There's a building or a couple of buildings that are on fire and are moving with the tsunami. That is just something you just had never seen before.
So I watched some of the videos from this earthquake and the tsunami over here in Japan from 2011. It's some of the most terrifying footage I've ever seen.
It's hard to place yourself in that. It's horrific watching essentially your whole city, life, neighborhood, whatever going by you.
Just being destroyed, like a feeling of helplessness.
Yeah, because there's nothing you can do against Mother Nature.
100% nothing you can do. You see your cars, your house, just in just a mix of water and sludge and mud. And
like you're watching the ground separate in front of you. Yeah. In some of these, I saw a video. I can't remember who did it. It wasn't on YouTube. It was from a website, but it was one of those, like, almost the way they redo like 9/11 documentaries where like there's no audio. It's just like the live footage that was captured.
Yeah.
And it was all from March 11th, 2011. And it was all just audio or video captured with like some like captions in the video of people like in their businesses as the earthquake hit. And it was 6 minutes long, the earthquake. And it wasn't just like a little rumbling, like things are crumbling over. The ground is splitting in some places. What do? Like where, maybe you get out of a building, but even if you're outside, are you really even safe? What if something tumbles on you? What if the ground opens up?
Well, then you have that and the delay until the tsunami gets there. So you have to get to higher ground.
On top of that, the tsunami.
It's a lot, yeah.
Like before you have time to even realize what the fuck just happened.
Sure.
Here comes part 2.
It's absolutely terrifying.
Welcome to Science Talk with Dave, Mike, and Ian. For the next 4.5 hours, we're going to take you through earthquakes and how that happens, and tsunamis, and when plates shift under the ground.
Shifting plates.
Yeah. Science!
We'll have Bill Nye in the studio in the next 2 hours.
Bill Nye, the science guy. That was a good day at school when they put on some Bill Nye.
They still play Bill Nye in school.
Do they? They should. Good for him.
Guy's an American hero.
Now, if he ever ran for Senate, I'd vote for him.
Bill Nye, the Senate guy.
There you go. See? He'd be his campaign manager.
I would do it.
I would do it. If you ever wants to ask me, I'll do it.
I'm your guy, Bill Nye.
It's out there, Bill. We'll wait your answer. So like this story is terrifying just in and of itself for the science aspect of it. And there's like a whole nother level.
Yeah, there's like a phase 1 with the earthquake, and then a phase 2 with the tsunami, and then
phase 3.
Phase 3. I'm not sure it's even the worst part of it,
It's actually more of the sad part of it.
It is, yeah.
It's sad, and it's a lot of healing after a while. A lot of these ghost stories we're going to talk about tonight, after a while, the people just accept it, that it's not scary. It's just to help these spirits along.
Yeah.
So sit back for the next hour and a half. You might cry. You're probably not going to laugh. And you're probably going to feel pretty shitty about life when we're done. So
Not a lot to laugh about.
thanks for joining us on this fine Sunday afternoon. Pour yourself a hefty glass of cab, kick back, and enjoy.
Or weed? Should I do weed, Mike?
You can do a weed and a wine. How about
Weed
that?
and a wine?
Yeah. Do a weed, do a wine, and let the docile tones of Ian Namapod drift you off to dreamland, where you're probably going to dream about tsunamis and ghosts and earthquakes. Yeah. It's not going to be very pleasant. And then you're going to wake up with a fucking wine hangover, and good luck to you on that, because that is a headache.
I don't love wine hangovers.
But I do love wine.
I like drinking wine.
Oh,
too.
it's so good. Hangovers, not so much. Ian's over there.
He does not like the wine.
Yeah, wine hangovers are worse than liquor or beer.
It's like someone's pounding a sledgehammer in your skull.
Yeah.
That's all the sulfites and the sugar in there, right?
I think it was back in his college days, Teddy Roosevelt, when he was at, I think it was Harvard. I should know that. I'm embarrassed that I can't remember off the top of my head. He got accepted into like one of like the, it wasn't a fraternity, but one of like the
Secret society?
I don't even know if it was a secret society. One of the educational, like it was a fraternity-ish down there. And he got drunk on whatever wine they were drinking and woke up the next day and decided, you know what? I'm never going to drink again. And that is why he became president and I'm running a dipshit podcast because he never really did drink again.
Wow.
And I admire that. Yet here I am.
I don't admire that. He's a quitter. I feel like that, and I go, this sucks. I'm going to order some McDonald's or Dairy Queen on DoorDash, and I'm going to get up tomorrow, and I'm going to drink again, motherfucker.
And then pass out with the same thoughts, watching reruns of whatever fucking Bonanza on TV, and Teddy Roosevelt's going on to, lead the country into war, going out west, sleeping under the stars, which is just unreal to me.
The Rough Rider was a quitter, huh? You just ruined it for me now.
He did quit on the drinking. He was not the drinker.
Never to be drunk again, huh?
I think he occasionally, never be drunk again, correct.
Fucking pussy.
I think he occasionally had a drink.
What a pussy.
But did not get drunk.
Pussy.
I agree.
Quitting pussy.
It's been said that some men have run this country being only drunk. That's also been a thing. So
I prefer that.
I would run this country drunk. In case anyone out there didn't know, I'd be drunk probably all the time.
Everyone knew.
Yeah.
Everyone knew. No one had doubts, Mike.
Inauguration day. I promise you people, I'm never going to drink. Open a beer while I'm saying that. Do the Stone Cold salute. Everyone starts going, USA, USA.
They would love it. This country would love it.
Or
What are
I
you
just
talking
be
about?
like, I declare to
That's
you
what this
people.
country wants.
What? The crowd. I promise the United States of America. What? That's my USA.
It's an electoral victory, my friend, because that's what they're looking for in this country.
You're not wrong, Kyle. Unfortunately, you are not wrong. Anyways, we've had enough of that off-air conversation. We can't let it creep in. Ian, we got get into it. This is going to be sad, but let's go.
On March 11th, 2011, a 9.1 magnitude earthquake hit the Pacific Ocean east of the Tōhoku region of Japan, which is in the northeastern part of Japan. The earthquake lasted for 6 minutes, was the most powerful earthquake ever recorded in Japan, and it was the fourth most powerful earthquake recorded in the world. You were talking about the videos, Mike. I don't even think they do justice of how powerful.
I'm sure it doesn't do it justice. And like I was watching, like there's people like in office buildings like recording, and the whole room is shaking, like side to side, like you're not even be able to stand up. That's a video, and it's terrifying. I couldn't imagine being in that. What's going to collapse on you? What's going to fall? Where do you go? Like you can't get out. The building is shaking back and forth. You can't get out.
So the waves reached 128 feet tall, which would be right under 4 school buses stacked vertically. And the water is traveling at 430 miles per hour.
That's insane.
People that lived in the areas hit by the tsunami had about 8 to 10 minutes of warning time. However, because the speed that the water was traveling, those people had about 50 seconds to react once the waves hit shore, because the water shot in 6 miles inland, those real heavy waves. So
50 seconds is barely enough time to get in your car and piece the fuck out.
yeah, you're
Like,
not
forget
getting
about
out.
packing stuff, getting stuff. And then you're getting out to what? To other people trying to get out. You're not getting anywhere.
Gridlock.
Yeah, it's gridlock. And like these videos, it shows the water coming and just taking these cars. People sitting in traffic jams. I saw the person they were filming, they were recording from inside their car as the car gets like taken up on water and other cars are being crashed into other ones. Unreal.
You know, a lot of people bag on Ohio. There's no hurricanes. There's no tsunamis. There's no tornadoes.
There's very few earthquakes.
There's no earthquakes. Very few, but they're very low magnitude earthquakes.
And even the tornadoes, those are the worst things we get. And even those.
They're minimal.
We're not Oklahoma
Very
or
rarely.
Kansas. Yeah.
Oh, we get some snow and cold weather. So all you people with your Ohio hating nonsense, it's not a bad place to be in terms of weather and catastrophes. Nothing happens here. That's good and
We
bad,
just live our lives.
but nothing happens here.
Although
we don't
one
have to
day,
worry about these things.
Ian and I will do an episode on the blizzard that almost took us both out. But we'll save that.
This is not happening.
We both almost died that night, but that's fine.
To make matters worse, freezing temperatures and snow followed the tsunami. It's really surreal to watch people like after the water is done, just kind of standing in all this destruction and looking for loved ones and just soaking wet.
What do you even do?
And it's just snowing on top of you now.
Yeah.
Just a feeling of helplessness. There's nothing you can do in that moment.
It's just hard to comprehend
It really is.
for
'cause
people
I've
like us who've never experienced something like that. Just watching it, what do you even do?
The videos were giving me anxiety.
Yeah.
Seeing them because it's something that like I've never experienced. I couldn't imagine experiencing. Like, oh, there's my car. Nope, there goes my car. Like, what if someone's in that?
And there
You're
were lots of
never
people
going to
in
see
that.
them again.
That's right.
That's what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
but like if you're watching your own car,
Sure,
like, you know, there's gonna be kids trapped in some of those cars that you just couldn't get out in time.
Yeah.
Like that's unreal.
As of 2021, the total numbers reported are 19,759 deaths, 6,242 injured, and 2,553 people missing, just never found. One of the cities hit the worst was Ishinomaki, with somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000 deaths. The official numbers reported for Ishinomaki in 2016 were 3,097 deaths and 2,770 missing. But by 2021 totals, most of those missing from Ishinomaki have been declared dead. That's a lot of people in one fairly rural area of Japan.
It is, yeah. It's hard to comprehend.
In the Reverend we're going to talk about later in this story, Reverend Kaneda, he says, like, especially once it started snowing, he was like, I just felt defeated. Like, why is Mother Nature so cruel right now?
It's a hell of a turn, like the earthquake to the tsunamis to that cold, snowing temperature. All those people that might be out there are trapped out there. Now they're in freezing temperatures. People who are looking to go save other people now have to wade through freezing cold water and snow to, find people, survivors. Like, you don't have that in hurricanes. You don't have snow right after hurricanes. Not to minimize not to minimize what people who go through hurricanes do. I mean, obviously that's not what I'm doing, but like just that change in the weather.
It's pretty far north in Japan,
Yeah.
The tsunami caused meltdowns of 3 of Fukushima's nuclear reactors. This resulted in radioactive water being dispersed, affecting hundreds of thousands of people. Power being lost stopped the cooling systems, which resulted in heat and hydrogen gas building up to the point that the refueling hall exploded.
Oh, okay. So now we have that going on.
Like, that's a whole different show. Like, we can't get into all that stuff, but it's not good.
No.
This is 15,000 dilemmas in one episode, and we're 2 paragraphs in.
Yeah, that is a whole episode.
Like, there's a
on its
whole
own.
area that's uninhabitable, just like Chernobyl.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a whole different story.
The power outages spread through these areas, and one of the many things that were shut down were the crematoriums. In Japan, it's customary for the dead to be cremated, but because there were no crematoriums working, loved ones had to be buried. Many of them would be exhumed at a later time and cremated, but we know from past episodes about the importance of the afterlife in Japan and how deep rooted some of those traditions are in rural areas of Japan, like Ishinomaki. Not necessarily religious people. I was reading some polls. They're not, don't believe in any religion.
In Japan, it's
fairly.
like the least religious place in the world.
Yeah. But there's areas
What do you
that
consider religion, though?
Right.
Yeah.
Dale Earnhardt is religion. So you shut your mouth.
Dale Earnhardt is bad driving. I don't know what you're talking about.
Sacrifice his life for you.
What was that shirt that you were wearing the other day?
It was my Halloween costume.
Yeah, but what did it say?
Raise hell, praise Dale.
Yeah.
I went as a hillbilly for Halloween for that. I had to buy it. I did not own that shirt. I had to buy it off Amazon, but it fit.
Drive bad from the start. Praise Earnhardt.
It's not what I said. My favorite is the you'll see like a logo on, like people have it tattooed, but it's like a tattoo or
Of course
a shirt.
they do.
It's a 3 with a halo above it.
Some angel wings on there.
Yeah. Anyways, went for a hillbilly as Halloween. You know, wasn't a stretch, but shaved my my mustache and beard into just a Fu Manchu or some jorts. Not the John Cena cool ones, because obviously those are badass. Like, you're not going to fuck with a guy in John Cena jorts. But hillbilly jorts, some boots, and cut off my the sleeves off my Raise Hell, Praise
We got
Dale.
to the party and people were like, didn't you know this was a Halloween dress-up costume party,
And I
Mark?
was like, no one told me. Do I need to go home and change? Like, should I shave my mustache off and just go as like a classy white guy? I bought a pack of Camel Blues. I was walking around with cigarettes all night.
There you go.
Dave appreciated that, though, because I gave them all to him. Because I wasn't going to smoke them all. I was actually pretty popular with those cigarettes in my pocket. I might have to do that more often.
Just be able to hand them
People
out.
are low-key.
A lot of people like those heaters. They're not smokers.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, well, let me get one of those
Oh, well, if
heaters.
you got one. You know what I didn't buy? A white lighter.
Yeah, good call on that.
Any hoodles.
We did that episode just recently about Japanese urban legends, which was really just Japanese ghost stories with the Yuri. But that's not really what we're talking about. We're talking about like this thin veil between life and death, where it's
not how it is in this country with a completely different thing. It's so far away from the dead.
right.
They're still part of your life. It's a little different.
We did our episode on the Ohihara Forest, which is the suicide forest. You know, those forest rangers or the park workers, remember they would sleep with the bodies. When they found someone out in the forest, they would bring them back to the office and they would stay overnight.
And they'd hear screams all night in the other room.
Yeah. But they would stay because
That's what you
That's what
do.
you do. It's respectful.
their spirit need to be put at ease from being out there.
And those depictions of Yuri in art are fucking terrifying.
The Yuri that ran on her elbows, she had no lower half. That one still kind of bugs me.
I remember that.
that one
Don't
still
love
really
it.
creeps me out.
Don't love it.
Dude,
I think about that story a lot.
Some of the best art ever.
You get that tattooed on you, Dave?
Oh, I absolutely
I'm calling you out right
would.
now. You should get that. When I get my 500th episode, you get that.
You can't call me out on anything. I will get anything tattooed on me. I don't care.
Your entire left arm is open. I think we should start filling it up.
Okay.
In Shinto region tradition, a person's spirit needs to be cared for after death by its family, who must provide a proper funeral, pray at their grave, and return to their grave for visits to ensure a peaceful transition into the afterlife. If that stuff isn't done, the spirit will wander searching for a home that they can no longer reach, or attempting to get revenge for pain that they don't fully understand. And that's what started being reported after the tsunami. Mass sightings of ghosts, interactions with ghosts, and in some cases possessions, as in the spirits of victims of the tsunami speaking through a living person.
What about, say, World War II? How do they reconcile that with... I mean, Japanese lost over 2 million soldiers in World War II.
Yeah, there were some different college professors and psychologists that something happened here, like the amount of trauma, something caused this phenomenon to happen.
I think
that didn't happen in other parts of history, because they acknowledged that. They're like,
Okay.
What was different here that
We'll see more. Okay.
for a large part of the research for this episode, I used the book Ghosts of the Tsunami by Richard Perry. He was living in Japan when the tsunami hit, and as he heard stories of these mass hauntings, he decided to research the phenomena. He traveled to places like Ishinomaki and started recording stories from people. One man in the town of Kurihara said that he hated to go out in the rain because he could see the eyes of the dead staring up at him out of puddles. There was a fire station that constantly received calls to houses that had been destroyed. And those calls only stopped after the firemen drove to where those houses used to stand and prayed for the people who died there. There was also talk that he heard early on of the ghost of an old woman that was said to appear in living rooms of temporary homes at a refugee community and sit down for a cup of tea. People said that the cushions she sat on would always be wet with seawater when she left.
So the actual physical proof is different.
These stories are very different. These are not normal ghost stories.
That's another level where you're representing that you see a ghost, and when you leave, there's actual physical manifestations that they were there, like a wet cushion kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. There were a lot of stories about people would get a knock on their door late at night, and they would open the door and someone would be standing there soaking wet. Didn't really say anything. And it just kept happening night after night. And then eventually the person living at this house was like, you got to go. You're dead, and would explain it to these people.
So I watched the Unsolved Mysteries episode, and it's on Netflix. They represented that.
Yeah.
Just standing at the door looking for clean clothes or dry clothes.
Not knowing that they're dead.
Yeah, and the person would bring them dry clothes, and they just over and over knocking. And boy, I don't know, man. It's very creepy. And the obvious connotation is they're soaking wet because they, drowned in the tsunami.
But then they just vanish.
Once they accept that they're dead.
That's the implication.
They didn't get the proper ritual, the respect, whatever it might be. Yeah.
But these are some, hair in the back of your neck stand-up stories where...
Would you let them in, Dave? Yeah, I know you let the black-eyed children in.
Boy, I don't know.
If a soaking wet Japanese person showed up at your door?
Yeah, probably, yeah. I would.
And then when they vanished, it would be a different story and be a little creeped out.
Like,
That's where it would be creepy? Not from the beginning, though?
I'd probably let them in and be like, hey... Or get them a towel or something at least.
Yeah.
I mean, as a nice human being, you'd be like, yeah, here's a towel.
I'm a nice human being, Mike. Contrary to popular belief.
I mean, we're also trying to think like, is the Japanese person showing up here in Ohio at your door? Or if you're over there?
This was a local scenario. I would let people in, sure.
Probably if there was a disaster.
Sure.
Yes, I think I'd be letting people in.
There started being stories from cab drivers, and the cab driver stories are the ones that it's kind of unanimous. Everybody that's studied this subject or really looked into it find that these ones are the most credible because they had to keep mileage and turn on the meter when they picked people up, and they had to keep reports of that. And when these stories like we're going to talk about happened, the cab drivers were the ones stuck paying the fare. This cab driver said that he used to love his job, especially in the summertime. But by the summer of 2011, the streets that he worked were now dark and quiet. All the homes and businesses and schools that he would pick people up from every day were gone and destroyed. While this cab driver was driving through an area that had been hit pretty hard by the tsunami, he was surprised to see a woman waving for him to stop. As he pulled over, he noticed that she was wearing a heavy winter coat, even though it was summertime, and her hair looked wet, even though it wasn't raining or anything like that. When she got in the cab, she asked to be taken to the city's Minamihama district, which again surprised that cab driver. He told the woman that area was almost completely empty, and he asked her if she was sure if she wanted to go there. There was a slight pause, and then the woman responded in a quiet voice, quote, "Have I died?" The cab driver turned around to look at the woman, and she was gone, just vanished.
That shit absolutely terrifies me.
a lot of those stories like that.
Like being in that state.
Oh, where you're stuck.
Is the thought of that happening to you when you die? Like, I just don't want to exist anymore. I want to.
And now
you die. I don't want to exist.
She's realizing it.
Yeah. The thought of you being in some fucking weird state where you don't know where you are and you're lost.
Sounds
that
like
is absolutely.
Side note, but
I just want to go to sleep. I don't.
Right.
And
then that's it.
Horrifying.
And then that's it. Do whatever the fuck you want to my body. Because that's
you're
it.
gone.
I'm gone.
You exist. You're born. You die. You exist for a specific period of time. And you want after you die to be just like before you were born. You don't know that you exist. You don't exist. But this kind of state like this where you're lost and you don't know what happened to you, and it's absolutely terrifying to me.
I bring it up every time, but that a ghost story movie.
Oh, I can't
exactly
even. I know exactly what that. I can't watch that movie because I know exactly what it is. And I can't watch that.
You're just
It
stuck.
scares the shit out of me.
But you like that movie's fucking creepy, man.
No, I'm not watching it.
Because eventually you just kind of forget why you're stuck.
Yeah,
you just start to lose everything.
Yeah, no, that's horrifying.
That movie is very panicky. It's a good
I want
movie.
my brain
watch this.
unplugged, and I don't want to exist anymore. That's it. I don't. Stuff like that. It's awful.
I mean, that's not in God's plan for you, Dave.
God can eat a fat dick. 'Cause
You're gonna sit.
that's in my plan.
You're gonna
No.
sit there and you're gonna know.
Nope. Don't want to know.
I don't know if you get a say in the matter,
Just
pal.
want to be unplugged. I'm gone. That's
get
it.
Same one. I agree. All the people that probably, what happens to people who commit suicide then? Like they're trying to get away from everything, and then now what? Now they're stuck.
I hope
somewhere
not.
maybe?
I hope not. That's awful.
Yeah, hopefully
That's
not.
very scary to me. No, thank you.
I told you guys it was gonna be a dark episode.
That's a lot. Like that's a lot to think about.
Another driver told a story about a man who's in his 20s that he picked up who looked lost. And the man kept pointing forward when he was asked where he wanted to go. After being asked multiple times, the man said Hiroyama, which was a mountain located not far from Ishinomaki. When they arrived at the mountain, the cab driver turned around to find out that the man had vanished. And initially, all these cab drivers said that they were fucking terrified. Like, this guy, for example, that's a long drive that he drove. So he gets up there and the guy's vanished. This ghost has vanished. He's stuck paying the fare. But then after a while, the cab drivers accepted it and they were happy to pick up the ghosts and drive them around and drive them to where they wanted to go. And
Just like if they respects
if they vanished halfway through, fine. If they made it to their destination, then vanished.
A lot of empathy because everyone knew someone that didn't survive this. So I think they saw a lot of their relatives or friends or family or whoever in these people.
Richard Perry was introduced to Reverend Taiyo Kaneda, who is a 26th generation Zen Buddhist priest in Ishinomaki, who by the time Richard met him, Reverend Kaneda had assisted in over 200 funerals for victims of the tsunami.
Can you imagine how exhausting that is? Mentally exhausting.
Mentally, emotionally, physically.
Just the worst.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Have you ever lost a job, had a bad breakup, or simply just felt stuck in life? Ever wish life came with a user manual, much like our cars or appliances do? Wouldn't that be great? Lost your job? Turn to page 63. Just got dumped? Turn to page 32. Feeling depressed? That'll be on page 104. Unfortunately, it's not that simple. However, BetterHelp Online Therapy is basically the next best thing. So the next time you're feeling stuck, why not check them out? BetterHelp therapists are trained to help you figure out the cause of challenging emotions and learn productive coping skills, which makes therapy the closest thing to a guided tour of the complex engine called you. BetterHelp has connected over 3 million people with licensed therapists. It's convenient, secure, and accessible anywhere, all done online. Therapy can have many benefits, be it learning new coping skills, self-empowerment, dealing with trauma, or even having a clearer mind. Look, everyone deserves to feel their best, and BetterHelp makes it easier to get started. They're the world's largest therapy service and offer all the benefits of in-person therapy, but are more convenient, accessible, and more affordable. After filling out a brief questionnaire, you'll be matched with a therapist, and from there, if things aren't clicking, you can easily switch to a new therapist whenever you'd like. It couldn't be simpler. No waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist. So get unstuck with BetterHelp. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/necro. Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/necro.
One of the first stories Reverend Kaneda told Richard Perry was about a man named Takashi Ono. Reverend Kaneda described Takashi as a lovable idiot. He compared him to a Japanese version of Mr. Bean, which I was laughing. I haven't heard a Mr. Bean reference in forever.
Extremely underrated British comedy. Those Mr. Bean shorts back in the day are so
Mr. Bean's
funny.
pretty funny.
The movies they made, like the big Hollywood, ones, those old shorts were so good. You can find them all on YouTube, I believe, by the way.
The old ones?
Yeah.
Takashi had grown up and frequented areas that were hit hard by the tsunami, but in 2011, he had moved about an hour away. He had electricity, things like that, and he couldn't believe what he was seeing on the news. He said it just seemed really surreal to him. So
It looks real surreal.
Yeah, and especially if, I don't know, I'm trying to think of maybe like downtown Cleveland, we watched that on the news. We're like, I can't believe that happened there, So he wanted to drive down and see it for himself. So 10 days after the tsunami hit, Takashi, his wife, and his mother drove to see it themselves. Takashi Ono was kind of like yucking it up at the disaster site. Reverend Kaneda recalled, quote, Ono told me that he'd walk along the beach in that devastated area eating an ice cream. He even put a sign on his car in the windscreen saying disaster relief so that no one would stop him. He went there flippantly without giving it any thought at all. I told him, you fool, if you go to a place where many people have died, you must go with a feeling of respect. That's common sense.
That is common sense.
Not eating ice cream, just walking around.
Yeah. He's sightseeing.
Mr. Bean would sightsee, probably. I could see that being an episode.
Mm-hmm.
Not being disrespectful on purpose, just a lovable idiot.
Just being, completely
Oblivious.
Yeah. So self-unaware of what's going on. Yeah.
When Takashi got home that night, he sat down for a normal dinner with his wife and his mother and had a couple beers. After dinner, Takashi started randomly calling friends just to say hi. Looking back on it, he said that he was feeling oddly lonely.
Who does that?
Just calls people to say hi.
Oh, hey guys, what's up?
Look, I'm going to tell you right now, even if one of you called me.
You think it was an emergency?
Yeah, that's true. I probably would because we don't call. But like a lot of times, like I'm not answering. And then an hour later, I'll text and be like, hey, sorry, I missed your call. What's up?
Yeah.
Like, don't fucking call me.
I'm going to do that. I'm like, hey, Mike, what are you doing?
But I would answer because like if you're
sitting here
calling
playing with
me,
my penis, what are you up? What are you doing
then I'm
down
probably
there?
you're like, all right. Which folders you looking at? Looking at Casey Anthony? You pull out the same thing. Let's do this together. Teamwork makes the dream work, pal.
Just rubbing my cock. Thought I'd see what you were doing. So I called you.
Just thought I'd give you a call.
Texting just didn't seem like it would work today.
Tuesday afternoon, just rubbing my cock. Wonder what you're doing. Well, Dave, I'm doing the same thing. Incidentally.
How about that? Big coincidence, huh, fella?
Who are you watching? Don't call me. Nobody call me. You're not going to get an answer. Text me.
I'm 100% calling you tomorrow.
See, I'm going to think it's an emergency. Well, now I'm not. You get kayfabe better. But like, yeah, if you guys called me, I'd probably think it's an emergency because we've established our relationship as a texting relationship.
Yeah, I would think something's wrong.
Well, Ian, in all fairness, the only times you've called me, you've been 14 miles from home.
It's true.
When you left a half mile from home.
Yeah, I've only called you when I have problems.
Like if I get a call from Ian, like, oh shit, something's going on. That's for real true. Like, it's almost
That's
like
a shoot.
PTSD. Like if I see Ian calling, you answer that fucking phone. Homie is lost.
So when Takashi woke up the next morning, his wife had already gone to work and he didn't have to work that day. So he just kind of hung out at the house and laid around. When his wife got home, the first thing she said to Takashi was that she was going to divorce him. And he's like, wait, what?
Wait, what? What's this now?
Wait, what?
And at that point, his wife explained to him what happened the night before. As soon as he got off the phone, Takashi had no memory of the rest of that night. His wife said that as soon as he made his last call, Takashi dropped on all fours and began licking the floor. Then, like some kind of animal, he started growling and yelling that everyone needed to die. In front of their house, there was this unkept field, and Takashi ran out into the field and started rolling around in the mud and screaming that, "I'm coming to you, I'm coming over to that side." At that point, his wife and his mother pulled Takashi back into the house, where he started yelling about something sitting on his chest, and then he passed out. The next day, Takashi saw groups of people walking past his house, and they were covered in mud. The next day, Takashi was laying around all day, just almost sounded like he had the flu, just real drained.
Mm-hmm.
Then at night, he laid down and slept for 10 minutes and woke up perfectly fine.
I wish I could sleep for 10 minutes and wake up fine. That sounds great.
Be all right.
So
I can sleep for 8 hours. I wake up, I don't feel great.
The stupid time change. I've been all fucked up the whole week.
Yeah, I don't love that.
Waking up early. It's
change.
terrible. Stop
Yeah.
the madness.
You're right.
So after he woke up, after this 10-minute sleep, Takashi walked into his living room, pulled out a knife, and yelled, quote, "Drop dead. Everyone else is dead, so die."
That's intense.
So they wrestled him down and took him to see Reverend Kaneda, where he took Takashi to the main hall of the temple. Reverend Kaneda beat the temple drum and chanted the Heart Sutra. Unwillingly, Takashi's hands moved into a praying position and rose above his head. Reverend Kaneda threw holy water in Takashi's face, and at that point he snapped out of it. The Reverend recalled telling Takashi, quote, "You have suffered a kind of punishment for what you did. Something got a hold of you, perhaps the dead who cannot accept yet that they are dead. They have been trying to express their regret and their resentment through you."
Yeah, you were an asshole. You're touristing through the disaster zone, so.
Good thing that's never happened to Mr. Bean, though, right? That would not have been made for
Probably
a good
wouldn't have
episode.
ended well, no.
Yeah,
It'd be a really dark Mr. Bean episode.
for sure. Would not have loved
It's
that.
possessed.
It'd be funny if they called you Mr. Bean because you can't find the clit.
It's one of my college nicknames.
Mr. Bean.
Oh.
Like,
Mostly it was because I did a trick with the bean, but I'm not going to give that away. But the ladies loved it.
Reverend Kaneda told a second story about a young woman named Rumiko Takahashi. One evening, a car pulled up to the temple, and inside were Rumiko, her fiance, her mother, and her sister. Her fiance said for weeks, Rumiko had been saying something was trying to enter her body.
Was Mike over there?
Just sitting here minding my own business. I'm not trying to disrespect anybody right now.
When Reverend Kaneda spoke to Rumiko, all of a sudden another voice started talking that wasn't hers. It was the spirit of a young woman whose mother had divorced and got remarried. And at that point, this woman's spirit found herself unwanted by her new family. She fell into working as a sex worker, and unknown to her family and not mourned for by a single person, she committed suicide. Reverend Kaneda said the sutra, used holy water, and around 1 a.m. in the morning, Rumiko had snapped out of it and the family went home. 3 days later, Rumiko was back with another spirit inside of her. Over that summer, Reverend Kaneda exorcised 25 spirits from Rumiko. After that first spirit of the young woman, all of the other spirits going forward were ghosts from the tsunami. As many as 3 spirits would appear in a single session. Reverend Kaneda said that he talked to each spirit sometimes for hours, listened to their grief, calmed them, and then using the sutra led them out of Rumiko into the spiritual plane. This stuff is really, it challenges my beliefs on the afterlife a bit, because in my mind, he's the main focus of the Unsolved Mysteries episode.
Right.
I have no reason to doubt what he's saying.
Not at all.
He doesn't have there's no gimmick, you know?
There's no reason to lie.
Right. He's a 26th generation Buddhist priest. That's a long fucking time passed down through that family. And I believe in tulpas. I believe in the idea of tulpas. And that tulpas originated with Zen Buddhists. Like that's where that whole idea comes from.
Okay.
So I wonder if there's something like that going on here
Like
with
tulpas
grief.
being you create it out of grief.
Yeah. Or just out of...
But who's creating it then? Like the survivors for lost loved ones?
Maybe.
But then he's experiencing it then? Like he's showing up and experiencing it too because they created this thing?
Yeah, maybe.
What about the taxi drivers though? Like that's a weird one.
I think it's like maybe it's like this mass tulpa type idea that a whole
Enough people
area
are grieving
yeah.
that it's like created the society of tulpa ghosts.
And I mean, there's something to, you know, like the Philip experiment. You can will something into existence. You believe it to the point that it becomes real. The cab drivers are, after a while, willing to just drive these ghost places. So it's real to them enough so that they're going to pay the fare to drive.
Yeah, that's the weird part. That's really these are strangers. Guys who have no invested interest in this that are saying then.
But I think it's an empathy thing. Like everyone in that area experienced loss with a family, a friend, or just someone they knew. So when they realized, I think, what was happening, they're probably happy to pay that toll.
That's what I'm saying though. Like just the fact that they're doing that and they're admitting to it. Like I guess like if you heard that happening, you wouldn't make a story up necessarily, or would you make a story up? Like these people are just coming forward saying, this is what happened to me today. I drove from here to here, thought I was taking someone, but I was wrong. It was, you know, a spirit or whatever, but here's my fare. I'll pay it.
Yeah. I mean, this whole story really challenges my beliefs on an afterlife. Cause I don't have, like I said, I don't have any reason to doubt what these people are saying or what that reverend said.
But is it just a mass grief psychosis, more or less?
Potentially tulpa at that point.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Is mass grief psychosis?
I made up that term just now.
No, I understand, but to this extent, more believable than it just being something? I don't know. I'm not questioning. I'm just saying.
I don't know. It questions everything I believe as well. Like those cab drivers, like there were cab drivers in there that said they just, in certain areas, they would see just the dead walking around. Like,
yeah.
I can talk about all the stories, but as soon as it got dark, they would see the dead.
And it was just
walking around.
It was just souls needing to know they were dead.
Yeah, because
right?
the way
that one was like, am I dead? And then disappeared.
Because the way that the Reverend talks about it is like people just died in an instant. A lot of people, I mean, you're talking 50 seconds,
right?
That water rush in. So a lot of people just die in a second. A lot of kids just died in a second. There was a story about the woman who her young child died and she kept the toy, a car of his. And when when it was time to eat dinner, they would sit down and she would say out loud to him, do you want, are you ready to eat? And the toy would go off as like he was talking through the toy.
Yeah.
Is she able to will that toy to actually work?
Right.
So almost feel like this is the end of a episode conversation, but I'll forget by the time I get there. So then like, why is it only like in Japan? Like we've had tragedy in the United States. The same stuff doesn't happen. You don't hear reports of the same stuff. You don't hear reports after 9/11 of seeing souls walking through New York City.
That was one of my questions because in 2004, there was a big tsunami in the Indian Ocean in Bali in Indonesia where 230,000 people got killed. So, 10 times as many people as this. So I'm wondering if there were these same sorts of things, or is this just kind of directly related to the legends and ancestral religions that exist in Japan. I don't know.
I think could be a mix of a lot of things.
It's hard to explain.
Do you have to be open to it to experience it?
I think so.
I think there's an aspect of this too that we're talking about, cultural things that have gone on for thousands of years. Like the idea of an atalpa is thousands and thousands of years old.
Just being open to that. I don't think we're open to that sort of thing here.
We don't have that culture. Like if you ask me if I had any cultural ghost shit, like no one has that over here really.
But just does that cultural awareness facilitate it becoming reality? And that just goes back to how tulpas are created.
Right.
If we're not open to that thing, then maybe it doesn't happen.
That's what I was thinking. Like, is it just like if you don't accept that, if it's not a part of your culture, your beliefs, your traditions, then you just think, oh, when you're dead, that's it.
But the whole cultural thing over there is this thin veneer between the living and the dead. It's almost
very different,
kind of on the same plane.
Like Ian talked about, like it's very respectful over there. Like, here's what you kind of have to do when someone dies. We don't do that. Like,
No, we're an idiot culture.
Oh. I mean, if you listen to our show, most dead bodies culture. Are found in what? Yeah. Garbage bags? They're skull fucked.
We don't have any culture. Yeah.
That's part of the reason why I take a lot of Japanese spirituality stuff serious.
I know you read this and you say this seems legitimate, where if you read a similar story with some fucking hillbilly in this country, you'd be like, yeah, whatever, okay.
They take it more seriously.
You really absolutely do.
And that does put a different spin on it.
It does.
I'm not saying I believe it, but I'm saying it does 100% give it more credibility when people take it seriously and they're telling you, this is what we've experienced.
Like, I know I keep saying it with the 26 generations. That is a long fucking time.
This guy gives you no reason to say, okay, he's out to make a buck.
Right.
Like he's
in a temple. He's a Buddhist.
There's no
monk.
reason why he has to do this.
Well, we're going to hear more about this guy, but this guy's the epitome of what a religious leader should be. In this country,
he's like, well, he's the equivalent of like a Ted Nugent, like a good leader.
Absurd. But in this country, we get, kid raping priests. We get fucking
Joel Osteen.
We get Joel Osteen ass clowns on private jets. And
hey y'all,
and con men speaking in tongues. This guy's
command the power of the spirit. Hell.
Yeah. Like, this guy's what a religious leader should be, and what you're going to hear about him doing is like what a
spiritual leader,
who's looking out for his community. Like, we don't have that over here. We have fucking clowns.
Going around just helping people, thinking these people might need some help. I'm going to go out and just guide them and see what and let them talk.
We have profiteering fucking clown shows over here. That's what passes for religious leaders in this country.
Tell me about your troubles. Okay, that'll be if you like to leave a donation on my tip jar.
Yeah, I mean, it's a totally different culture.
By the way, if you'd like to tip us, patreon.com/Necronomicon. We also don't provide any guidance, spiritual, religious, life, physical, mental, nature.
Holla, holla.
Just here to get drunk and
listen to some Ja Rule.
Have a good time.
The last part about Rumiku, who had the 25 spirits exorcised from her. I'm just going to quote directly from the book. One of the first was a middle-aged man who, speaking through Rumiku, despairingly called the name of his daughter. Kaori, said the voice. Kaori, I have to get Kaori. Where are you, Kaori? I have to get to the school. There's a tsunami coming. The man's daughter had been at work by the sea when the earthquake struck. He had rushed out of work and driven along the coast road to pick her up when the water had overtaken him. His agitation was intense. He was impatient and suspicious of Kaneda. That's the other thing, too. It's really fucking creepy about these exorcism retellings is this Rumiku woman, it would be a male's voice coming out of her. It was this man's voice coming out of her. That's super scary. The voice asked, am I alive or not? No, Kaneda said. You are dead. And how many people have died? The voice asked. 20,000 people died. Later, Kaneda asked him where he was. I'm at the bottom of the sea. It's very cold. Come up from the sea to the world of light, Kaneda said. But the light is so small, the man replied. There are bodies all around me, and I can't reach it. And who are you anyway? Who are you to lead me to the world of the light?
Fucking terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. Did you have consciousness in some other entity or body, and
Like
you realize you're laying at the bottom of the sea
with all these other bodies around you.
Absolutely no.
Talking through a random woman that's living.
Awful. Just cremate me, please.
He's not having this.
No.
Dave, I'm not sure that will help, though, will it?
This is
Getting rid of your body. I
This
don't
shit
think it
scares
fixes
the
this.
fuck out of me. I don't like stuff like this. No.
You better live forever, pal.
I'm
But you know what? The good news is in America, we don't believe any of this, right? So we're just going to,
well, yeah.
Dave,
Correct.
best case scenario for you, you die and then someone skull fucks your decapitated head, right?
That's
Take
not
it.
what I would classify as a best case scenario. No.
But I mean, you won't know.
As long as I'm gone.
You won't know.
I don't
You're
want to
gone.
regain consciousness and be at the bottom of the sea.
True.
That is very scary stuff.
But I'm saying you wouldn't. You'd just be, your head would just be skull fucked by some.
That's
elbow.
fine as long as I don't know. What I don't
Exactly.
care.
That's what I
Whatever.
mean. You're just not
I just don't want to know. I want to be gone.
We reject this in the United States.
Yes. It's very scary.
But again, there's this aspect of the way they treat their dead is very cool. This was just based off a tragedy, right? Like, if you have that proper farewell, if you have that proper respect, maybe there's something to be said for that. Like, what is that afterlife like? This was the victims of people who were taken without having that due diligence, that ceremony, that respect. I don't know. It's very cool to think about and to study. This is the dark side of that, right? Like,
Very dark.
I would, I wonder what happens to like those people that pass that they give the respect to. What do they experience? What do those souls experience?
But realistically, the afterlife cannot vary based on different countries on the planet.
I agree, but we also said like, is it what you pay attention to? Is it what you didn't? I mean, we said this earlier. Like in the United States, we don't respect anybody. So fuck it. When you're dead, you're dead. Like souls to souls. Get
But the
out of here.
idea that aspect of it actually directly affects
I don't know if it does, but
is interesting.
and all I was pointing out is like, if this is the dark side of it, what's the good side of it?
There's no good side.
The conversation went round and round for 2 hours. Eventually, Kaneda said, quote, "You are a father. You understand the anxieties of a parent. Consider this girl whose body you have used. She has a father and a mother who are worried about her. Have you thought of that?" There was a long pause, and the man said, "You are right," then moaned. Kaneda chanted the sutra. He paused from time to time when the voice uttered choked sounds, but they faded to mumbles, and finally the man was gone. Eventually, Reverend Kaneda decided that he needed to travel to help people heal. Like, no exorcism stuff, just listen to people. He and his fellow monks traveled around the local countryside, stopping to set up meetings where people could drink tea, eat cake, and talk. Reverend Kaneda called these meetings Cafe de Monku. In Japanese, monku means complaint, and it's also a pun on the English word monk. Cafe de Monku gave people an opportunity to talk about their grief and their feelings regarding the Japanese people that were left to mourn the victims of the tsunami. Reverend Kaneda said, quote, "People don't like to cry. They see it as selfish. Among those who are living in temporary homes, there's hardly anyone who hasn't lost a member of their family. Everyone's in the same boat, so they don't like to seem self-indulgent. But when they start talking and when you listen to them and sense their gritted teeth and their suffering, all the suffering they can't and won't express, and the tears come and they flow without end." And from the video of Cafe de Monku, it's a pretty cool thing that he does.
This is very cool.
Mm-hmm. Seems like everybody's able to just get together and kind of
Again, what a religious leader should look like.
Yeah.
And just a guy who's not out, like in the sense of these stories, he's not trying to make a buck. He's not trying to, get you to join his cult.
If it wasn't for Richard Perry writing his book, and Richard Perry had lived in Japan for 18 years at that point.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, if it wasn't for him writing this book on the phenomena, I don't know that the Unsolved Mysteries episode would be done, and I don't know if we'd really know about this.
Nobody was reaching out to publicize this.
No.
And he wasn't looking for any of that.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
There was one other person that kind of looked into this phenomenon and wrote a book about it, but he's Japanese. The book's in Japanese and it's never been translated to English. I wish it was. I would love to read that book too, but
it just seems like this is how mass trauma translates.
It's mass trauma mixed with cultural beliefs that are real, like a real culture, not just I'm being haunted by a ghost.
Yeah. I have a video clip of the tsunami warnings from that day. I forgot to play it earlier, but I think it's very eerie. And then the video is just people walking around, like someone's videotaping this and just walking around, and it's just very. I'm gonna play it real quick.
Yeah, play it.
It just has that eerie quality to it.
Those sirens are always eerie to me.
You just hear
we have those in our town. Like they go off the first Saturday of every month. And it's creepy to me when you even want to hear those because it never means good things.
No.
Like it's always a bad thing.
And that water's, a minute away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in a minute, you're not getting anywhere.
Within 50 seconds, I don't know that I could get from this room to my car and get it started in 50 seconds.
It takes you that long to process what's happening. Like just picture yourself in your office or your home.
The first 10 or 15 seconds, you're still processing like,
right.
Oh, this is real. And you got to go get your keys, get whatever, get in the car. And then even then start the car, get out into what? Other people doing the exact same thing. And then you sit there.
Like you have to watch the videos of this. It's just horrific. The sludge and the water and the houses and the cars just going by. I mean, I think I read it was like 217 square miles of just devastation. Like some of that stuff's just gone. It's not even to this day. It's gone.
Yeah,
it's a wasteland. And in that Unsolved Mystery show, you see people like pointing, like that one he was pointing to where, my house used to be here. This neighborhood was there. It's just a wasteland. It's just nothing's there anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely challenges my beliefs on the afterlife, but I have no reason to doubt any of these stories, these accounts.
I'm not sure it's real, but if you believe it's real, like what's real? If you see it, it's real to you. What's real?
It's when and then you're also getting into like the realm of like DMT type stuff where people are like, it's real to me. Like I see this entity here and I'm talking to it. So it's real now.
Yeah.
And maybe it's mass grief manifested into these
Right.
encounters. I mean, I believe in a fucking talking mongoose. I believe that was manifested by a little
You
girl.
did say that on. Well,
You have no right to disregard anything else at that point.
it's all up for grabs at that point. But Patreon.com/Necronomicon, Jeff the Talking Mongoose. Did we release that one?
No.
Did he-
Jeff's a Patreon exclusive.
Okay, good. As he should be.
Jeff's a cool motherfucker. But it's just incredibly sad if you watch that Unsolved Mystery. Like the guy they talked to, he found his what? Do you remember this guy? He found his wife in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And then they found his daughter. And then like 3 weeks later, they were digging out something. They found his infant daughter.
Yeah,
like
I don't know how
the body count, and it's awful. It's just awful.
Yeah, I don't know how you continue
Yeah. I don't know how you
in
come
life
back
after
from
that.
Right.
This is a fucking depressing episode. This was not supposed to be this. This was supposed to be a ghost story episode, right?
I would just say I understand how this kind of grief makes you.
We took a wrong turn though in picking topics. I feel like this was not what we expected initially. At least I didn't.
It's interesting, and
It's
just
very interesting.
and it goes on because a lot of that stuff's not rebuilt yet. That Fukushima power plant that melted down and sent radiation clouds towards Tokyo is still an exclusion zone, I believe. Just like Chernobyl, you can't go there.
No, yeah, you can't. There was something. I think the show's called Dark Tourist, but there are places that'll like tourist areas or services, whatever, that'll kind of sneak into that area so you can see it. But you get in trouble if you get caught.
When you get radiation poisoning.
Yeah, because there's people like they have their little gimmick things that tell them the radiation, and they start getting into like in close and like, yeah, this is getting really high. Like we should probably leave. And that, yeah, like you said, that's a whole episode on its own. I know there's some ghost stories with that as well. I know there was a school that was.
I actually have that story.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh,
There's
great.
some
More
more
sadness. Can't fucking wait.
The Ocala, not in Florida, the Okawa Elementary School. There's 74 students that died there. One mother of an Okawa student consulted with a psychic. They traveled together to the school grounds, and after the mother tied decorations into the surrounding bamboo trees, the psychic told her the deceased children were, quote, delighted with them. So this is the whole thing with the bureaucracy of the school, I guess, and how they design the escape plans or the, disaster planning. So a lot of people are not happy with the bureaucracy of whoever runs the school because all these kids died and didn't seem like they had proper planning to rescue them. The psychic also described horrifying scenes of the veneer between life and death, describing that the dead were, quote, crawling on the ground near the school. Some of them were stuck in water, covered in mud, swallowing the dirty water in terrible suffering. Some of them were trapped and trying to get out, the mother described. But another medium named Sumi told the mother a different story. You might think that the kids want their parents to find them, that they are desperate to go back home. But they are already home. They are already in a very good place, and the more you bury yourselves in a search, the more desperate you will become. So I don't know. You got one medium talking gloom and doom, and another medium saying they're, already in a great place.
I feel like there could be some fuckery going on with those mediums.
Yeah, you're talking about, when you talk to about mediums, it's medium equals fuckery. Like that's not.
We're already off to something else different here.
It's definitely an interesting phenomena. It's interesting that it happened in this scenario, but it didn't happen like you brought up with World War II, things like that. Something.
Or in 2004, the huge tsunami, 230,000 people died.
Something
or in other
happened
countries, even.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't happen here when there's Pearl Harbor or 9/11.
Is it a modern day thing? Doesn't seem like it. This seems like an ancient thing.
But this is 2011, though, that this happened.
But it's going back to the ancient
but,
kind of religions and traditions of Japan. Like if we had a mass trauma thing like this, Probably not.
9/11
Like
would
when?
be the closest, but not.
Not to this
But there's
scale.
nothing ever anything like this.
Yeah. Like it's a unique situation, I think. I don't know. Watch the videos. It's
Don't watch the videos because it's also very upsetting. It's not
It's
good.
terrifying. Yeah.
Yeah.
All I can say is I hope we never experience something like this.
All right, Dave, I think you got some shout outs.
Thank you to Tanya Boyce, Tony Sauce, Karen Keel, Taylor Mack, Brian Rodriguez, Erica Kantz, Cheggers, Alex, Ryan Sanchez, Heather Halsey, Asheen Tikiwantika Deltree Samek III. Boom, nailed it.
Boom.
Pee Pee Poo Poo.
Nailed that one too.
Amanda Foster, K. Michael, Moran Dorcas. I want the gold. Give me the gold.
Y'all see a leprechaun say, yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't we just bring that up not too long ago?
One of the best videos of all time. The amateur sketch drawing.
Oh, yeah. It was about the ghost. Give me the ghost.
And there's that guy with all the equipment. This has been passed down for generations of my family.
Summer Lee, Carrie Burakowski, Jessica McGraw, Joshua Kendrick, Leonard, Runsel Nodnarb, Shadell Aguilar, William Slight, John Hessig, Julie, Travis Whitlock, Steph Cushy, Joseph Nelson, Melissa Ott, Jenny Jan, Candace Jordan, Sally Smith, Erica Consolmagno Hagarty, Socialist Dave is the man. Is that me?
Are you a socialist?
Am I
Dave?
Socialist Dave now?
Maybe their name's Dave and they're just plugging themselves.
Well, all right, maybe.
All right.
We'll never know. Katie Lee Lulu, The Hamburglar, Tyler Stevens, Rocky, Travis Burks, Boston, Stephanie Bishop, Ga Lil, Jason Hayes, Eric Freeman, Rhonda Helvey, Marisol Gonzalez de Carvalho, Sarah H., Jacqueline Small, Pitt County Kardashian, Aaron Hicks, Magic, Hillary Flockhart, Trista Rosine, Kathy York, Vanessa Nicole A., Joe and Shelby, Kelly Drew, Stephanie, Michaela C., Rail Me Ian,
Nice. USA. USA.
Holla, holla.
Ashlyn Robbins, Bosley James, Christina, Paprozik, and Heather. Thank you, patrons, very much.
I think that second to last one misspelled Prozac. Prozac.
Paprozik.
No, I agree.
Holla, holla.
Sorry, maybe some Prozac might help. Listen to our show. What do you got, Ian?
For iTunes, I have one for Haley Double D's, Ash Robbins 14, I'm a Hooker. Pretty sure I'm a Hooker has given multiple reviews.
Nice.
I think she keeps updating.
Appreciate it. I'm a hooker.
Is she saying good things?
Oh, yeah, for sure. M. Summer, Ash MC6, Ailey Sawyer, Plastic Beaches.
I thought you were going to say plastic beaver. What are you talking about?
Clackerstain, Mazando.
Mace Windu from Star Wars? Is that what you're talking about?
And Obi-John Kenobi. Thank you guys.
Look, Star Wars. How about that?
Jesus Christ.
What?
What the fuck's going on? Any international reviews?
I have a couple. I have Youngish Mum, The Buzzy, and Kitty Cat Charlotte, all from Great Britain.
Look at that.
Thanks, Brits. Appreciate that.
We are on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube at Necronomipod. Remember, if you are a member or veteran of the United States military, please let us know. We'd love to give you a shout out. We appreciate your service. Let us know, and we'll mention you on air. What else? YouTube. Did I say YouTube? Patreon.com/Necronomipod. Spring is where our merch is. You can check that out on any of our social links. And if you go to necronautpod.com, there's a direct link. We have all kinds of good stuff there and more stuff still to come. Thank you all very much. We appreciate you guys listening.
All right, you guys ready for a cool down beer?
Cheers.